What's up, gear mortals? Trey Xavier here. Today I want to talk about the difference between down tuning and drop tuning your guitar. Today I'm going to be demonstrating using this Fender American Ultra Series Telly. It's brand new and extra sick, and I'm going through the Engel Savage 120. It sounds awesome. The names for tunings of guitars isn't incredibly super standardized. There isn't some stone tablet somewhere with every single tuning and the exact name that everyone uses. So it can get a little bit confusing. All we're doing today is distinguishing between two things: standard guitar tuning, lowered, versus drop tuning your guitar. In order to understand the difference between the two, the first thing we have to establish is, what is standard tuning? This is, of course, the most common guitar tuning that exists. It's called standard for a reason. If you buy a guitar, it will most likely ship in this tuning. You'll receive it in this tuning. If it's hanging on the wall in a guitar store, it's probably tuned to E standard. But when we say standard tuning, what that actually refers to is the musical relationships between each of the strings, the musical distance from one string to the next. And in standard tuning, the way that that works is that we have a perfect fourth between the E and the A string, a perfect fourth between the A and the D string, a perfect fourth between the D and the G string, and then a major third between the G and the B string. And then once again, we have another perfect fourth between the B and the E string. If you don't know interval names or anything like that, that's okay. It's not really necessarily that important. All you really need to know is that it's all fourths except for these two strings, which are a major third apart, and that those relationships have to stay the same in order for us to call it a standard tuning. Standard in this case does not mean better or more useful or anything like that. It's just a name. It's just a label for this tuning. Playing in E standard also means that the notes that you play are going to come out concert pitch. And all that means is that when you play an A note in the A spot, you're going to get an A. It's going to sound as an A. If you tune down and you play what was previously an A in the A spot, you're going to get something different. So now that we've established what standard tuning is, let's talk about down tuning. So if we say that we're going to down tune our guitar, or if you hear the phrase like down tuning, they're down tuned, anything like that, generally what this means is that they've tuned lower than E standard. For example, it was pretty typical for older rock bands, classic rock, 80s rock bands, to tune down a half step to E flat standard. So that's tuning down. We tune all of the strings down a half step, which is the equivalent of one fret or one pitch name, to E flat standard, which means then we go from E, A, D, G, B, E to E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, E flat. You can play the guitar exactly the same way, but it's going to sound one half step lower. I'm going to demonstrate what this sounds like and how this works for you by playing the exact same riff in progressively lower and lower tunings. I'm going to go down by half steps so that you can hear each one, what it sounds like as it goes a half step lower every time. And I'm not going to change the way that I'm playing it at all. Where I put my fingers on the fretboard, all of that stays exactly the same, but you're going to hear it go lower every time I play it in a lower tuning. So check it out. That's about as low as I can go with the string gauge that I have on here now, but you can basically just go as low as your guitar can possibly handle, as long as you kind of keep upping your string gauges and changing the intonation. There are a lot of different reasons why people like to tune their guitars down, including but not limited to the fact that some people just like the way that it sounds down lower. And then, of course, from a more practical perspective, you can just transpose anything that you've written on the guitar down by just tuning your guitar lower. This comes in really handy if you've learned a song a certain way, but maybe the singer wants to sing it in a lower key. So then all you have to do is either tune down or maybe tune up or use a capo, and then you can just play the same thing and not have to relearn the whole song in a different key. Down tuning and drop tuning are terms that are often used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. Now that we've established what down tuning is, let's talk about drop tuning. So a drop tuning is when you take the lowest string and tune just that one down a whole step, or sometimes more. So right now we're in standard, E standard tuning. E, A, D, G, B, E. And then we're gonna go down to drop D. And the way that we do that is we're gonna take our low E string and tune it down to D. So now we have D, A, D, G, B, E. That puts us into drop D tuning, which is different from D standard tuning because all of the other strings, aside from the lowest one, are still in E standard tuning. All we've done is taken the lowest string and pitched it down a whole step below whatever it would have been in standard tuning. Drop tunings are always named after whatever the note of the lowest string on your guitar is. And this applies whether or not your guitar has 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 strings. This can be a bit confusing because drop A on a 6-string guitar is completely different from drop A on a 7-string guitar, so you have to specify how many strings your guitar has. Drop A on a 6-string guitar is when you down tune all the way to B standard and then you drop the lowest string another whole step to A. On a 7-string guitar, drop A is when you take the standard 7-string guitar tuning, which is B, E, A, D, G, B, E, so E standard plus a low B string, and then you tune just that low B string down a whole step, and then you have a dropped A string plus E standard tuning on the 6th string. So that's a little bit confusing once again, but it's mostly just important that you know that drop tuning is when you drop just the lowest string down a whole step below whatever the standard tuning is. So here's kind of an important twist. Drop tunings can also be down tuned. So we can take, for example, drop D like we have here, and we can down tune all of the strings from drop D down a half step and get drop D flat, or also known as drop C sharp. So that means that the lowest string is gonna be a C sharp or a D flat, but everything else is going to be like from E flat standard tuning. And then you can just keep on going down in half steps like that, tuning everything down, and then the relationships between the strings, once again, will stay the same, but now the relationship between the strings has changed just for the relationship between the lowest 6th string and the 5th string. In the case of drop D, we now have a D and an A, which gives us the sound of a 5th, which is like a power chord. This is useful for all kinds of stuff, namely using one-finger power chords, which is kind of cool. But it also gives us access to a bunch of much larger and just different kinds of chords that we wouldn't be able to play otherwise. When we drop tune the guitar, we change the musical relationships between the strings from standard tuning. So now, instead of all fourths and then this major third, we now have a perfect 5th between the lowest 2 strings. So now the relationships between the strings are a perfect 5th, a perfect 4th, a perfect 4th, a major 3rd, and then a perfect 4th again. So now I'm gonna show you what it sounds like when you down tune a drop tuning. So I'm gonna show you the same riff in drop D, drop C sharp or D flat, and then drop C. So you can hear how, as I'm tuning progressively lower and lower, even though I'm playing the guitar the exact same way, the part hasn't changed at all. We're just hearing it as being a half step lower every time we tune down. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks to Fender for sponsoring this video and sending over this American Ultra Tele, which rips. I'm really enjoying playing it. If you want to learn every scale on the guitar in a 1-hour lesson, you're going to want to check the description below for a link to my Relation Shapes guitar scales course. I have broken down scales on the guitar as far as they could possibly go and made it as easy to learn as it'll ever be. So I highly recommend you check that out. If you haven't already, mash that subscribe button, smack the bell to join the notification squad, drop me a like, and leave a comment in the comments section letting me know what kind of guitar tuning you use the most. Maybe you use a couple different ones, maybe you stick to ye old standard. I want to know, and I'll see you real soon.